Yeah, we're ready to go.
So Matt, we just do a countdown?
Yeah, we could do that. Cool. Actually, later. Let me share my screen first. Let's get the agenda up.
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay, share screen. Okay, is it coming up?
Yes, I have it.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I'll count down now. And 3, 2, 1, go.
Good evening. This is the January 3rd, 2022 meeting of the City of Brisbane Complete State Safety Committee. This meeting is compliant with the Ralph M. Brown Act as amended by California Assembly Bill number 361, effective September 16th, 2021, providing for a public health emergency exception to the standard teleconference rules required by the Brown Act. The purpose of this is to provide a safe environment for the public, staff, and committee members while allowing for public participation. The public may address the committee using exclusively remote public comment options. The committee may take action on any item listed in the agenda. Public meeting videos. Members of the public may view the Complete Street Safety Committee meetings by logging on to the Zoom meeting listed below. Complete Street Safety Committee meetings can also be viewed live and or on demand via the city's YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/Brisbane CA or on Comcast channel 27. Archived videos can be replayed on the city's website at http://brisbaneca.org/meetings. Joined by Zoom. Complete Street Safety Committee meeting, time January 3rd, 2022, 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. www.brisbaneca.org/CSCC-Zoom. The meeting ID is 976-0955-7422. The passcode is 747389. You can also join by phone by calling in the number 1-669-900-9128 and entering meeting ID 976-0955-7422. To address the committee, when an item you are interested in appears on the agenda, you may address the committee at that time. If the matter you are interested in is not on the committee's agenda, but is a matter that is within the committee's subject matter jurisdiction, you may address it under public comment. Remote public comments. Meeting participants are encouraged to submit public comments in writing in advance of the meeting. The following email will be monitored during the meeting, and public comments received will be read into the record during oral communications or during an agenda item. That email is kkenzer@brisbaneca.org. Could you scroll down a little bit, Matt? Special assistance. If you need special assistance to participate in this meeting, please contact Karen Kenzer at the email I just gave you, kkenzer@brisbaneca.org, or at telephone number 415-508-2133. Notification in advance of the meeting will enable the city to make reasonable arrangements to ensure accessibility to this meeting. Okay. I think we're ready to go. Could we have a roll call, please?
Committee member Bain,
Present.
Cabrera,
Present.
Christie,
Present.
Detmer, present with a mute.
Linda, you're on mute.
Present.
Right? Lau is not present, and Tainter.
Present.
Right.
Okay. Let's move on to the agenda. Could I have a motion for adoption of the agenda as you see it on your screen? Or if there are any adjustments, please bring those up.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, Alex.
I was present. Sorry, I was in as I was in as
Not
an
as a
attendee instead
panelist,
as
yeah.
a panelist. Yeah. So
Welcome.
Yeah, great.
Motion to adopt.
Could I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, roll call vote. Bain?
Actually, I want to comment on it before we have our roll call vote.
Okay.
I mean, I know I'll be stepping down at the end of my term, but I just want to reiterate what I shared during our last meeting. I think it would be appropriate to work on the work plan once new members have been elected. Obviously, I'll defer to the committee members who'll be staying on, but I just would like new committee members to also be given a chance to have their say on the work plan. That's my word. Spoke my piece. That's what I got.
Okay. Thank you, James.
You're
I
welcome.
agree, James, completely. Thank you for that.
Yep. I mean, so if a majority
So,
agrees.
well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
We're getting ahead of things. That I think we should probably discuss that under that item, right?
I mean, we can.
Yeah, I think
but
it's an agenda. It's an item that's in the agenda, and that's where we should discuss whether we want to act on it or not.
Right, unless James was suggesting just removing it from the agenda, but
I mean,
Oh,
both work, but I want to honor
Okay.
the will of the committee, particularly the members of the committee who'll be staying on for beyond this term expiration.
okay. Well, then let's have discussion on that. Do we need to make a motion first and then discuss it, Karen? Or we
I mean-
discuss it? What's the rules of order here?
well, you have a motion to adopt the agenda as it stands, so you can discuss that
Okay.
motion.
Okay. So James, would you restate then what your recommendation is?
I mean, my recommendation would be to remove item B from old business and place it on the agenda. I would imagine for the next meeting in which when new members have been appointed by the council, so that they could
Okay.
be privy to that discussion.
Okay. Any comments from the committee? Linda, you were saying something?
I just want to say I agree with James. I think that's a very wise decision.
Okay. Anyone else? Christian?
I did see in the agenda. I did see in the agenda that we have some, work plan ideas. I think we should have those, and then as the new member committee come in, they could look at it and add to it or have their opinion on it.
Okay. Alex Bain, any thoughts?
No thoughts at this time. I think I guess the only thought that I really would have was it depends how long it's going to take for new committee members to join. And if that's say 3 or 6 month process, I don't think the topic could be punted that long, but
Right. Alex
Yeah,
Lau?
that's a good point.
Alex Lau?
yeah, I
any
agree.
thought-
Right. I agree with I would be concerned about if there was a delay in waiting for new committee members to join and to get up to speed. But I also understand it'd be nice to have them as part of the process. Maybe we can find some happy medium where we can
Okay.
continue to have some discussion of ideas and get a little bit done.
I got a happy medium
James?
idea. How does this sound? So why don't we stay with the original motion that's on the table, keep it on the agenda. But I would be most comfortable if we didn't make a final decision on it and that it be revisited once the new members are there. I do think there's value in having the current members discuss it to kind of get our brains working. But I also want to include the new members in the process as well.
Okay, any other thoughts or comments?
I was just gonna say, yeah,
Karen.
it's a tough transition time, because there might be a couple of months until we get new
Yes.
members, and some people aren't renewing, so that's a factor. But if it were just a matter of knowing what the discussion was, now we're televised, so we have those recorded meetings that the new members could go back and watch. But if it was a
Okay.
matter of them having input, the other way to think about it is that if there's some big new idea, we could ask to add that to the work plan in the future too. So those are just some thoughts.
My thoughts on this, according to Ingrid Padilla this afternoon, she was saying probably late spring, the new committee members would be joining. So I don't know, late spring is April, May timeframe. And this is just a suggestions to council. This is not our work plan. Remember, we do not set our work plan anymore. And I think we prefer to have it come from council to us rather than from just out of nowhere. And so these are just suggestions of council. There's nothing to prevent us from sending additional suggestions at any time in the future. So that's just my thoughts on it. So, James, tell me again what your happy medium was.
That we keep it on the agenda, yet
Okay.
don't make any final decisions tonight and revisit it as an agenda item when the new members have been appointed.
Oh, that might be a long time. So then we would vote on the motion as it stands to
Correct.
adopt or not adopt the agenda. Okay.
Correct.
Do we have a roll call, please?
Member Bain? Say it again.
Aye.
Cabrera,
Aye.
Christie,
Aye.
Detmer,
Aye.
Lau,
Aye.
and Tainter.
Aye.
Right.
So the agenda is adopted as posted. Are there any oral communications?
I haven't received any emails or phone calls prior to me.
Okay. Did any?
Matt,
Yeah.
right, Matt, is there anybody that has joined the meeting asking to speak, raising their hand?
No, there's not. This is it.
Okay.
Okay. Anything from any committee members to say or anything in terms of all that for items not on the agenda? Okay. Let's move on to approval of the minutes. I think you all have received that. Were there any changes, additions, or deletions to the minutes as they were sent out?
Yeah, I have one addition. So just under the first line, first paragraph under old business, where I'm announcing that I'm stepping down, just add at the end of lead role immediately, and at the end of the word committee at the end of his current term, or yeah, at the end of this term.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other changes? Could I then have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a
Motion.
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 I'll second that.
Okay,
Got it.
could we have a roll call then?
Here we go. Committee member Bain,
I,
Cabrera,
Aye.
Christie,
Aye.
Detmer,
Aye.
Lau,
Aye.
and Tainter.
Aye. Okay. So the minutes are approved. Let's move on to old business and let's talk about the residential parking project in central Brisbane. As if you will recall, at the last meeting, we volunteered into groups of 2 to work on different aspects of it. Did any of the groups in the holidays and such have a chance to actually work on anything?
no.
Linda is raising her hand.
Okay, Linda, go ahead.
Hi, I was assigned to public service announcement,
Mhm.
and I kept coming back to what else could possibly be added to that and how it could be done. And the thing that kept coming up for me is that the 3 of us, James, Pat, and myself, have worked for a long time very diligently on brainstorming ideas for the entire parking problem that we've been dealing with in Brisbane and will continue to deal with. And my understanding from the council is that we don't have to come up with a solution. Rather, we just have to come up with some options, recommendations, and then the council will move from there forward. And so I am prepared to say that regarding public service announcements, we've done our job and it's complete. It's ready to be submitted to council. And some of you may feel the same way about some of the other areas were discussed as subcommittee type areas for the rest of the committee. I know, James, you didn't want to do anything that was finalized now, but we have put an enormous amount of work into this, and between 3 of us, we've I think done a good job. And if we have recommendations that are for each section, those recommendations don't require a solution from our committee, but rather require that it's time to send them on to council and see if they send them back with wanting further from our committee or exploration or data.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Any thoughts from the committee on what Linda has presented to us?
I have a response. I mean, Linda, I completely agree that you and Pat and I have done a tremendous amount of work, a ton of work on studying the parking issue in Brisbane. But in its current form, I'm not comfortable giving recommendations to council. I feel that, from my understanding of our committee's role, is we need to do a further study on the 3 ideas that we've boiled down so far, and kind of have more details in terms of the budgetary costs to the city, the resources that would be needing, and also the logistics of how to implement them, particularly the street sweeping and the permit program. Just get so that the council had more of a clearer idea of how the city would be impacted from all those, from both a resource and a budgetary, and also how we can practically implement it. So that's my thoughts. I do feel like we need to study it a bit more and get some more details that we can share with council. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you, James.
Agree to disagree. My understanding is that we just need to come up with the potential solutions and that all of that stuff can be sent back to us for more work, but that we have done our work. And our work is to just come up with what are possible avenues. And if the council likes any of our avenues, then they can have us pursue that. At this point, I think we're beating a dead horse until the council actually says, go and do this, because we might be wasting a lot of time with something they absolutely do not agree with.
I mean, Linda, you do make a valid point. I mean, it would, one of the things I was hoping for from our council liaisons was clearer direction. I didn't feel like that occurred, and we could ask council explicitly to give us clearer direction by sending them the recommendation. So that is a valid point. I hear where you're coming from, Linda.
And I believe that we will be getting an update from council on just these items. There was a note on my screen. I would, if we're not getting it, I would like to ask staff to go forward to our committee liaisons and ask them to please put in writing what the directive is that they have for us now, since it seems to be changing. And it's very hard to go by our old bylaws. Everything's really become different now, and we're going to be moving forward in a very different way. And I would like to get clarity on that from council, because my really clear understanding is that we just come up with the ideas and then they decide which ones they want to go with and how to get through it. And if they need more input, they get it at that point when they request it from us. I don't know if anybody else has that same feeling or not, but I'd love to hear from other committee members.
Christian?
Yeah, I think Linda and Jamie, they make a great point. And going forward, you almost want to, refine the options. I'm sure Jamie could, comb through them and make them more precise. But it might be good to hand them to council and see what they say, because the other phase is almost like how we implement them, because and that's another conversation. In terms of research, I think a lot of it is there. What else can you do?
And I think it's up to council to implement how the funding and several other things will be impacted and where to get the money from. And some of our ideas may not be acceptable. So it's time, I believe, to put it in their lap and then see what they give back to us to work on. We've done data studies. I don't think we need to do more at this point. We've done the initial complete what is expected of us at this time. And going forward, it'll probably be very similar to that. We just come up with some solutions, council either rejects or accepts, and then we move forward with what our job is at that point.
I think a lot of the drilling down that needs to be done now is actually a staff function. I mean, we're not equipped to go find the costs of street sweeping, the cost of a permit program, right? I mean, those are things that council needs to know, but those are things that we are not equipped to do, right, Karen? I mean, those are things that you and your staff would liaison with other cities to find out what they've done or what their costs have been. You know what street sweeping costs are, or can find out, can put together a budget estimate and so forth. And so I tend to agree with Linda that the things James says are true, but I think in a sense, I think our work is largely done here.
I agree.
Alex and Alex, any thoughts?
I agree. I mean, Linda, I'd hate for the group to do a lot of work and then present it to council, and then council tosses, or they're not interested in a couple of options. And I think if we give those options to council, and then if they want more further information, or further work is required, then we can help them, assist in after they've kind of come up with some decision.
Thank you. Alex Bain, do you have any thoughts?
I think Karen had her hand up before I did.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Karen?
Well, but that's fine. You can all give committee input. I mean, I was just going to say that my thoughts, my experience are a lot of things that staff brings to council. Council has articulated what they want, and staff goes and does the research and brings an item. And it could have been, it's either a majority of council members or it's the mayor, just like the committee deciding what could be on the agenda. And this is a little bit different because this is coming from a committee. And I think it's kind of a balancing act, because I think I agree. If you spend a lot of time, you got 5 different people on council. They're not, as much as they are one body, they have different thoughts. And this is a really sensitive topic. So we're at a risk that, if you do a lot of work, there's rejection of some of it, or, a majority of it, or who knows. But if you don't do, I think there's some degree of refinement that we do want before asking. We might, with the streets, I don't know. I think if you hand them just a wide open idea, you're going to get all kinds of feedback, just like we got with the 2 liaisons. But maybe we want to bring to them, like, we want to sweep streets every other week, and we'll do this block, but not that block. We kind of have a plan that they can look at that's a little more specific. Otherwise, you may just get the like, oh, I don't like that idea at all. Whereas if it's a little more formed, they would say, oh, okay, that makes sense. Somebody's not going to be terribly impacted. It's going to be 2 hours on their block, and the other 3 blocks around them are available for parking, and it's, 2 times a month, or maybe something like that is a better proposal to bring. But at the same time, maybe we can bring them really just these concepts that we have and get feedback with the idea that maybe there will be more input from the committee to refine it later. I mean, I don't really know, because I just know it's really sensitive, and I don't think the council is all, I wouldn't expect them all to say yes, yes, yes to exactly what you've come up with. We're going to get a lot of feedback, I think, whatever we bring.
Okay, thank you.
May I?
Anyone else? Yes?
I completely agree with Karen, and we have discussed, I believe, in our last meeting, and maybe the one previous to that, that there are ways to deal with street sweeping if that's something the council chooses to do. And I don't think it takes a whole lot of explaining, which streets. It's just a matter of, low impact by doing one street where other people can park on, where those people can park on other streets during that time, as a suggestion. And maybe then the council will say yes, no, or describe more. But my understanding very clearly is that we don't have to come up with the solutions, just possible ways to deal with it. And then it goes to council for them to fine tune it for us and give it back to us if more work needs to be done. So I think we're ready. I really think we're ready to submit this to council if we can just get it written up in a way that makes sense to them.
Okay, thank you. Alex Bain, did you have a chance to say anything yet?
I don't have anything too substantial to add that hasn't already been said. I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see, I think we have some good data put together already. It'd be interesting to see what the council has to say. I think the only thing that I would say is finding a way to make that back and forth as time efficient as possible for everyone's sake. would be advantageous.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and I'd like to add, particularly since we won't have additional committee members possibly till spring, and we don't want to drag this out. If we do get
Right.
something back, we can continue to work on some of the things we've already agreed to work on and share that with new committee members. If we're not done and ready to resubmit to council, we need to keep working. They want this stuff completed or moving towards completion. And I think that's a way to satisfy both the committee and the council.
Okay. Christian.
Yeah, I mean, if there's something in particular that that has you hesitant to just provide the options rather than continue doing more investigation, and as Patrick said, some of those some of those investigations, staff is better suitable to deal with them. I mean, I can't compete with staff knowing what type of sweeping truck or that costs or stuff like that, is more suitable to this program than, because they, this is what they do. And as forgot Karen's boss's name, say, we're engineers and we do all these things and so forth. So I think they have the experience and they have the schooling and they have the resources to fine tune those options. But I think if there's something that you think, you want to add on, of course, I would say let's, we wait in for you to do that.
So you were asking
Yeah.
James that?
Yes, I'm asking James that.
I mean, I'm having a few thoughts. I mean, I'd love to give it to council and say, hey, these are the 3 ideas we've come up with. This is them in principle. Are there ones that you could get behind and that we should instruct our staff to investigate further? Or that is an option. The other option is that we could instruct our staff to investigate all 3 and come up with a plan with a few more details and submit it to the council then. So I see us having a couple of options.
I guess I look at this. Yes, Linda.
I'm sorry.
That's right.
I think we're putting the cart before the horse if we're asking staff to do a bunch of work before
Yes.
the council chooses a method to deal with all
Yes.
things. And that's an awful lot of work for staff. And if council wants us to come back and come up with numbers or ideas or ways to implement or more data and more walking the street and taking numbers again, I think that's a more streamlined way to go in approaching what council, they want to know what we're doing. This is what we've done. It feels pretty complete to me as up to that point, and then we will get more direction from them. But asking staff to figure this all out before the council has accepted any of our recommendations, I think is a little premature.
Well, note that I said that we had 2 options and I didn't preface it by saying I had a preference.
Okay, I apologize.
No worries. And I think everybody understands, I mean, particularly Linda and Pat and Karen, how much work we've put into this. And I would very much love to see it come to some fruition, particularly as I wind down my time on the committee. This is me just speaking personally from the heart. So, Linda, I'm fine with us presenting to council what we have and asking them what they want us to, what they would support and what they want us to investigate further, or what they want us to utilize staff resources to investigate further, if that's something they'd like.
I agree. Thank you, James.
I agree. Karen.
Did the committee think any, I mean, I would characterize the feedback as mixed feedback, but has the committee thought any more about some of the feedback that seemed to, from the two liaisons, be a little bit reluctant about a citywide parking permit program and mention of some particular areas that are worse problems, and modifying the recommendation to do a focused program. Is that something the committee wants to think about? I mean, the direction wasn't clear, but from the two liaisons, we did hear a little bit of, you know, it's not citywide. Maybe we should look at the worst areas.
So Karen, how would those be identified? The worst areas? Would it be the people on the block would need to get their own petition? And
Well,
Do it,
there
or-
is an ordinance that allows that now.
that's already in place, yeah.
So it might, I mean, I guess what I was getting from that is that maybe they have a couple in mind, and you guys live in the community, maybe there's some outreach, and we say, you know, this block of this street and this, you know, all of Tulare, and, you know, these 2 blocks of this street, and let's start with those. But I think we'd also probably need to look at the ordinance and see if we're recommending any changes to make it easier to get those off the ground. Or, you know, your recommendation was a citywide vote to do a citywide permit program as a 3rd step, or the final step. So we got some feedback that was a little bit like, oh, not so sure if that's going to fly. You know, I don't know that, you know, the council don't have a crystal ball either, so we wouldn't really know until there was a vote. But did it make the committee as a whole or majority want to think about that recommendation? That's my question.
Linda?
I agree. And I'd also like to add that we have discussed those things as a committee in a couple of our last meetings. And I think that could be pulled into the staff report to the council, that we've discussed those things and they can give us further direction. We can't decide on our own without their blessing what streets to do it, where, unless they come back to us and tell us, okay, go ahead and try that, where you're doing parking permits as in isolated areas or certain areas. But we don't have approval on any of it. And I think without going to the point of identifying which streets, it's just something that can be written into the staff report, as we can identify which streets we'd like to try this on and see if those streets are amenable to doing it. I just feel like we've gone as far as we can with what they want, and we need feedback.
I tend to agree. My thoughts on a selective street program is that people who need to park will just move to somebody else's street. And so it really doesn't, if you don't do it citywide, the people who are on a block that has a permit program, who have too many cars and can't get, however the permit program works, they can't park their cars. They're going to go park on somebody else's street that doesn't require a permit. And then it kind of just creates a bigger problem, right? In that the street that was trying to solve it sends their problem to somebody else's street. And I don't, I think Linda had her hand up first, Karen.
I agree. And I also want to remind everyone that not everyone on the council is pro parking permits or
Right.
pro street sweeping. And so we need to put this in their lap, and they need to come back to us and tell us which topic or which thing they want to start with or try or investigate. And that's just adding to what you said, Patrick. It's whichever way we go, we're going to have problems. And I'd like more guidance on how to deal with that, or what they would like for us to do to bring them more information.
Okay. Thank you. Karen?
Oh, I guess my question was to you. Do you think it's the cars that people are storing, or their daily drivers. I tend to think that people in Brisbane are pretty attached to their space in front of their house, and I want to park there. And I don't think people that are as big city minded. I mean, I've parked on the street in San Francisco, and you take what you can get, but I don't think that people would want their daily driver to be 2.5 blocks away in Brisbane. I think maybe they would get rid of cars. Maybe they would actually get rid of cars.
You know, there are two problems. I think, as James has illuminated to us, there are car hoarders in town who have too many cars for the number of people living on the property. That's just the way it is. And so those cars don't get driven every day, and move them somewhere else is easy to do. The other problem is families who have teenagers or college age kids at home with a car. I have no problem with telling my college age kid, go park your car 3 blocks away and you walk to it. Okay. And I think most parents wouldn't have any problem telling their kid to do that, you know? So just my thoughts.
It's the younger ones that are going to be more flexible and
Right.
okay with, we have steep streets and dark, it's not comfortable for everybody to be.
Right. That's right.
I know of one case in particular in Brisbane where that person has difficulty parking every night on their block and often has to park 2 blocks away. It is a problem. And if parking 2 blocks away could become our go-to comfort zone for a lot of people in town, that'd be great. I don't know what we're going to be facing with this, but I'm ready for more direction.
Being a suburb, I think we're just not used to that. When I lived in San Francisco, my car was in a different place every night. Sometimes it was half a block away. Sometimes it was 3 blocks away, but it was different place, a different street almost every night. That's just in an urban area, that's just kind of how it is. And as our population has grown and the car population has grown, we've come to resemble a denser urban area.
Exactly. And there was a time when there were many vacant lots, and just about every single one of them has been built on. Now I can't even think of an empty lot anywhere except maybe one. And those people are always going to have cars, they're going to have children, they're going to have all these things that we've discussed. And it's become very difficult for everyone because of our population growth and the housing growth that we have experienced. So it's time to do something that might be uncomfortable.
Yes. Well,
So the committee feeling is still a citywide for the third.
if it were to go to a permit, that's what I at least that's what I think Linda's saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm not sure what everybody else is thinking. Yes, Alex?
Yeah, I think my opinion is that permits can be hard to administer just normally. And I think that doing like a sort of an inconsistently applied permit system across the city would just be a lot of overhead and management, enforcement, communication. And I don't think it really solves the problem, because like if I can't park on this block, I'll just go park somewhere else. And that just puts more pressure on the other streets. So I'm not entirely convinced that even a full city permit system would be a huge win for the city, just because it's such a small city and it would be hard to enforce. But I think a inconsistently applied permit system would be worse. So I don't know if I can stand behind that, because that just seems like it's more work with less benefit.
Okay, thank you. James, any thoughts on that?
I mean, this is a thought I've shared before, but I mean, my personal opinion from studying this issue for so long and from what I know about our town is that the permit program does seem a bit too heavy-handed, just from what I know of the culture of our town. And it would be a lot of resources. I mean, you would probably need a cop, or what you would need to devote at least a police officer who would do it, be checking the streets like numerous hours a day. I mean, that's a solid commitment of resources. And my personal opinion is I think more of the street sweeping program would is kind of a happy medium. It's not as heavy-handed, but it could still be a big enough inconvenience to some of the bad actors in our town, which I would at least hope would make a difference. And in the worst case scenario, would make a nominal difference and have our streets look nicer. So, I mean, those are just my personal thoughts, but I really want to hear what council have to say, because at the end of the day,
Yes,
council are our elected leaders and we need their leadership.
agreed.
Can I ask for the committee members, is it because of the population growth? Do you think that's the reason why, you know, our city is now having, you know, this issue? And do we have data of, like, you know, how many current residents we have, how many units, you know, are in the city, and have any idea of like how many vehicles, you know, on average, like a household would, you know, have? What is that, you know?
We have a data on the number of legal units. And one of the things we wanted to get in the quantitative study was we wanted to like essentially run license plates numbers, but we talked to the police department and we're not able to do that. So we weren't able to connect in our data how many plates per se per household unit. So we weren't able to get that data offhand, but I think anecdotally, and I think Linda, being a longtime resident, kind of hit the nail on the head. Our town, we have small substandard lots, and our town has been growing. We have a small lot where you might have 2 or 3 units or 2 or 3 families living there. Some legally, some not permitted. So I think all of these factors have come into play and have kind of created what we're dealing with right now.
So there's not that it's a out of area parking is probably a small percentage.
According to, I believe it was Commander Garcia, who shared with us during one of our meetings that he's only had 2 or 3 incidents where it involved an out of city car. That's what Commander Garcia told me. I told this to the mayor and she didn't believe me, but that's what our second or third in command of our police department told us and was on the record of saying.
But he's telling us reported incidents, so
Reported incidents.
maybe
Right.
many unreported.
Christian,
Just,
you have
you know,
your hand up?
just trying to figure out, like, you know, the root, you know, if we can find a root cause, or, you know, root cause, and try to, you know, to implement things to address that.
You know, part of the Uber parking problem is that travel is down. I mean, in terms of judging what its contribution is, because 2 years ago we had a lot up here, and definitely almost none now. In fact, I would say none for the past 2 years of, you know, people going to the airport and leaving their car up here for 3 or 4 days. So it may not be a problem now, but I'm sure it will come back when travel returns to normal levels. Christian, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I mean, I got, I mean, if we going to start teasing out, you know, the cons and pros, you could probably say, you know, some of the pros are there's Uber, there's small cars, you know, people are feeling the effects of the environment, on and on and on. I mean, so I guess that will benefit or be more sensitive, you know, not to have a car or not to have too many cars or big cars, or why not, you know. But one of the things that we need to be clear is what are the bad actors, because those are the ones that they need to be hit the first, right? And then that would be the first, you know, order of law to sort of get, you know, start getting those aware that what, you know, what they're doing is is impacting other people, not in a good way. But overall, then if you talk about the population is growing, yeah, that's true. But the lot size are not growing. You cannot put more rooms in those little houses. But then again, that is just a fact. We don't even have a high school over here. So to start dealing with a lot of those things, it's difficult to tease out the pros and cons and come to a clean conclusion. I think overall, it's identifying the bad actors and make everybody aware of the problem and draw something that is going to be general or workable, and making people aware that this is a problem. And there's also a question on the QA. I'm not sure who that is. Is that a new a citizen or has a question?
I don't
it's
see
hard-
it.
I think it's
Oh.
hard to tell, and all they said was hello. So unless they asked a specific question, it could be another, person that found our information on the internet and decided to join our meeting.
Okay.
I don't see them
Also
even
for the
in the
committee then,
participants list. Go ahead.
for the
I'm sorry.
committee, is there a definition for a bad actor? Is it, one person with X amount of vehicles, or is it a household with a X amount of number of vehicles? I mean, is there a definition of number of vehicles per driver, possible drivers in a household?
I don't think really we defined it in a quantitative sense. I think it was more qualitative.
Because if you were going to address those bad actors, does the committee have a sense of are there really a number of them, you think, in the city that that it would have an impact?
James, what do you think?
I mean, we have no way of knowing except theoretically, because as I told you about our data, we weren't able to
Yeah.
connect our quantitative parking study to specific households. But we do know anecdotally that on every few blocks, there's that neighbor or multiple neighbors who seem to have a lot of cars. And I mean, obviously, the intention between the three programs we've come up with is to send a message to those households, and to also make it difficult to have multiple cars, either by feeling bad through a PSA or through guilt, it being a huge inconvenience of having to move all those cars, which gives one an incentive either to start parking their cars on off-street parking or to get rid of the cars, or with the permit program where it's like, hey, only so many cars per household, I can't have this car. So that's the theoretical design behind the three ideas that we've come up with so far, to address the bad actor theory, for example. Any questions or clarification, or did I respond to your question, Alex?
Yeah, no, you did.
Yeah.
I mean, I would just say, from a personal perspective, I collect a lot of classic cars. I have a number of classic cars, but I keep all my cars in the garage because I wouldn't leave them out on the street. So they're all protected. And I have friends that live in the city and they have multiple cars, but they store their cars, remotely, because they wouldn't also leave it on the street as well. So maybe those car hoarders or, people with multiple vehicles, I'm just wondering, are they just being left out there in the street, and not being utilized? Or, are they, being utilized, and there's just a lot of members in, you know, in that household. Or yeah, you know, maybe we should make some incentives, you know, for people to clean out the garages so they can store their cars in, you know, in that space. But
That was the
there was
idea behind the PSA, was get a
Yeah.
car off the street, clean out your garage type of thing. I mean, it doesn't get all the cars off, but if you can get one off, that makes it, everybody can get one off, that makes a big difference on the street. Well, you know, the way we're going, Linda?
I just wanted to respond to a couple of things. Alex, you may have 30 cars, but you've got room for them on your own private property.
yeah.
And you had asked about the changes. I've been here a little over 50 years and have grown up in Brisbane, and I've witnessed the changes. There used to be a lot more open space in the main part of town, grassland, no sidewalks, really rural, really pleasant. And I'm not saying that it's not pleasant now, because I really enjoy a lot of the new people who are living with us. But we have grown incredibly to where, you know, there's, it's starting to get to where breathing room is starting to look distant or gone. And there is at least one person I know who never gets rid of a car. And I've known this person for almost 30 years. And they just park them on the street and keep getting new cars. And I don't know what the attachment is to that, but I think there's a bit of entitlement. I've been here. I'm sorry, this person is insistent. Let me turn my phone down. Bad actors, I think in general, are not completely identified by us who they are yet, and that might be something we'll be doing in the future. But I also think that people who keep cars just to keep them might have a sense of entitlement to do that. And I think that's something that seriously needs to be addressed. And if it means that we contact those people separately, possibly, as one solution, given that the council will allow us to do that, and let them know that due to the number of people in their household, they're exceeding what's appropriate. And we'll get some fight back on that. But I think that's what it boils down to, is an entitlement to, we've been here a long time. We've always had 10 cars, and you can't tell us to get rid of them. It's a public street. So okay.
Okay.
That's all I
Well,
have to say.
does somebody want to sum up where we want to go with this?
Well, I one of the things I'm hearing is that, at least from Linda and myself, and I think I'm speaking for you too, Pat, is a desire for clear direction from council.
Yes.
So we can make a proposal saying, hey, these are the 3 ideas in principle that we've come up with. Council, what would you like us to instruct city staff to investigate further for possible implementation?
I agree. And
Do
let
we
them
need
make
to take a
the
vote
let
on
them make
that?
the decision.
Yeah, I mean, this is a
It's a
big
tough
deal.
decision.
This is a
Yeah,
big
it's a
deal,
big
and
deal.
Oh, it's going to be
it's
very
the
unhappy with
council's
a lot of
job
residents.
to make
And
that
yeah,
decision.
yes,
Yeah,
let them make it's not this committee's decision. It's the
yeah,
council's decision.
yeah. It has to be the leaders who are accountable to the voters.
James,
I
do you
mean,
want to make a motion to that?
I'll make a motion that we present the 3 ideas that were formed in subcommittee to the council, submit them in principle, that of a PSA as outlined in the memo we sent out last month to the committee, a street sweeping program, and a permit program, and ask for guidance from council. Which of these, either all of them, two of them, one of them, maybe none of them, they would like us to instruct staff to investigate further for possible implementation in Brisbane.
Do I have a second for that?
A
Second.
second.
Okay,
Oh. Somebody else
Sorry.
seconded. Go ahead. Go ahead, Alex. That's fine.
okay. Let's have some discussion. I think I completely agree. We should remember that we had planned out the 3 stages, the 3 points as a stage progressive. In other words, if the PSA did not work, 6 months later, in comes a sweeping program. If that doesn't work, then 6 months later, in comes a vote, putting it a ballot issue on, does the city want a permit program or not? I think that's a key part of it, in that we start with an approach that appeals to everyone's better side without being punitive. And, you know, everybody's desire to have a better city. And if that doesn't work, then, you know, start taking other measures. Matt, do you have that handout that we had up last time that you could put
Probably
on
not.
screen? Probably not, yeah.
He only has what I sent him.
Okay.
Yeah, I could take a look though. It's from last month's meeting.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
from,
it is.
Yeah.
it's,
What was it called again? The parking.
I forget what we called it. It was the preliminary recommendations, the parking subcommittee or something like that.
Oh
We
yes,
had
okay.
it.
I see it. I see
Okay.
it.
With the PSA, is there any incentive for one to clean out the garage, to put their car in there?
Well, we
Except-
talked about soft incentives to start with, like get your name posted somewhere as being a good person. And then we also talked about entering. I mean, we can't give everybody a prize, but
They do that nowadays for.
right, everybody gets a trophy, right?
no
Exactly.
participation trophies in Brisbane.
But you know, maybe a raffle, you know, or that has, you know, a handful of things, you know, a dinner, you know, someplace in town, or you know, something like that. And okay, this is what we had up last month. Do we
This
want
looks
to?
really good
Go
to
ahead.
me. I think it's ready.
Okay.
Just my opinion, but I believe it's ready for them to give us instructions on, you know, which way to proceed.
And so, Karen, would you present this to council? Would Randy present it to council?
I would check with him. He would
Okay.
probably have me do it. I'm gonna guess.
Okay. And
I
you're
think-
go on, or
No, go ahead and finish, James.
and it sounds like you're kind of getting you know all the nuance of what we've discussed, and I mean, so including the fact that, you know, how we've designed it. We've designed it to be from softer to more punitive, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are still talking about it, but I think I would have a couple of questions that I would anticipate maybe the council asking is after step 1. So we studied 6 blocks, but we didn't necessarily study the best ones. Are we looking for quantitative improvement in the 6 blocks?
I mean, in science, it helps to do an apples to apples comparison. I would recommend continuing studying those same blocks, just so you can try to see if there's a difference over time. And the blocks were chosen randomly to try to be as representative as possible of the town.
And they could say, let's study a couple more blocks before we do anything, the ones that we think are bad, so that we can really get a,
Well, that's the council's prerogative, and we would follow their instruction.
Certainly on at least one of the two of the streets that we surveyed, I can recall there were cars that over that several day period, that 2 week or 3 week period, never moved. So, you know, I think it has a chance of being representative. If there's-
although, are we pretty confident that that car that we saw at 5:30 or 6 PM every day wasn't someone that worked from 7 to 4 and not back home?
We need the police to put chalk on the tire.
And then the other thought is number 3, would we specify that that's a citywide parking permit program?
Yes, citywide parking under number 3. Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's true. Correct. And between each of one of these, we would give them, it's not enumerated here, but we would give it 6 months to work. Say between the PSA number 1 and number 2, we would do number 1 and then go back and check after 6 months and see if there was a improvement or not. We would resurvey. That's not delineated on this
Right.
document. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Citywide
for-
includes the Ridge and Altamont then too, I take it, even though they're usually not affected.
Yeah. I think some blocks in the Ridge and Landmark would like it because they get overflow parking from Altamar. And some of them kind of complain. So,
So
We
for
did
number
talk
one,
about, sorry.
sorry about that. So for number 1, what do you guys think of the idea coming up with some sign that says, you know, we are the star, we got a car out of the street, or I mean something like if they're in compliance, some sort of sign that they could put in front of their house or something to make them aware of the
Yeah.
program and to make them and to make that particular house, you know, that they did what they needed to do.
So I guess you either want to recommend specificity or not. What if you just put a slash between incentive and raffle? Because a sign would be could be an incentive,
Yeah.
or maybe you add recognition.
A recognition, yeah.
or recognition. Yes. Yes.
Which we had talked about, the committee had talked about recognition, different ways to do that. But I was just going to clarify on number 3 with the voting, is that we had talked about, I don't know if that was just the subcommittee, that we wouldn't be able to just have a vote of the central Brisbane area. Any ballot measure would have to be for the whole city.
There are 2 precincts, right? They could do it precinct by precinct. I don't know where the boundary is between the 2 precincts. I think the Ridge is in a different precinct but I don't know where the dividing line is.
We have a
The
different polling place.
Ridge has a precinct, and
Yes.
I think there's 2 or 3 precincts in Old Town.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd have to look on the precinct map. Actually, this is a very basic question that just came up to me. Are the streets on the Ridge considered private property because of the HSA there? Okay, they're public streets.
They're public street.
And
well-
the city of Brisbane maintains them, or the
Ex-
HSA
except-
maintains them?
Except in Altamar, I believe Altamar, which is the condominiums next to Mission Blue Community Center. I believe that's all private roads because
Okay.
it's like a parking lot. There's an underground parking lot there. I believe that's in fact, the sign says no through traffic private road on one of them, the one that can be used as a cut through street. But in terms of is it Viewpoint? Yeah, Viewpoint out to the east and Landmark on the western end. Those are all public city maintained streets.
Got
Yes.
it. Okay, so we have jurisdiction. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So is
the HOA over there actually is, they kind of informally like have the residents, self-police those areas. So even those open parking spots, if somebody's parked there for more than a couple days, people notify the police, and and those big stickers go on there, pretty
Yeah.
quickly. It's
Yeah.
the HOA is really on them, and they get the residents to they deter street parking there.
Well, Viewpoint doesn't have a lot. It's like Brisbane. It doesn't have a lot of street parking space, right? Just the
Correct.
spacing of the driveways is such that, but they have very long driveways and 2-car garages. So it's kind of, you can get 4 cars on each house, off street very easily.
I mean,
So,
that could
okay.
probably be another point that we could add to number 1, I guess. Citizen policing cars or something. And then I guess I have another question. So for number 3, if we get that to the point, is the parking permit program also includes the Ridge or just the old Brisbane?
Everywhere.
I guess it would
Right? It has to
depend
be
on,
citywide.
yeah. I think it would be citywide.
Actually, Karen, can you get a point of clarification? I believe it was Randy who mentioned the citywide thing. And I don't remember if he was saying that in reference to the vote or to the permit program. Do you remember what he said?
My recollection is he was saying that in reference to the vote.
Okay.
But it could be a vote for a permit program just in central Brisbane. And to kind of follow up on what you were saying, that's why you studied just
Yeah,
that.
that's why we just studied central Brisbane.
Right.
I mean, my recommendation would be a permit program just for central Brisbane. I mean, I don't have any data off of, I mean, this whole parking study was the parking study of central Brisbane.
Mhm.
I don't have any data on the Ridge.
Can we clarify that for point 3 then?
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
really no parking problem on the Ridge, frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah, people might see that as a waste of money and time too.
Right. But then if that's the case, I don't think the people on the Ridge should have the right to vote on it. Right?
Yeah, but if that is just how, I mean, I don't know. That's just what we all heard at the meeting. So
Right.
I don't know if we can divide it that way.
Well, you can divide it by precincts, but I don't know where the precinct boundary is. You can divide it by precincts, just like you can divide it by school districts and so forth. You can divide a ballot, but I don't know where the precinct boundary falls. I do know the Ridge is in a different precinct.
The
than
Ridge
Central
is in a
Brisbane.
different precinct and I believe there's either 2 or 3 different precincts in,
Okay.
I think there's
In
2
Central.
precincts in Central, if my
Okay.
memory serves me correctly. I kind of geek out during elections every year.
Right.
I mean, Pat, I wouldn't mind calling the motion, unless anybody has any kind of burning comments they want to add.
No, I think we had a second, didn't we? And
Yeah, I
we've
think
got-
we did. Yeah.
We've got no changes, so shall we go to a vote then on James' motion? Karen, can you do roll call then?
Can you repeat the motion? Sorry, just for clarity for the minutes.
Okay. And
Is
if I
it,
miss,
it's your motion?
yeah, it's my motion. And again, if I miss any key points, feel free to add them. But the motion is to propose, in principle to council, the 3 ideas the subcommittee came up with to address the parking problem in central Brisbane. Number 1 being a citywide PSA. Number 2 being a pilot street sweeping program. Number 3 being a parking permit program. These are proposed in the order of I'm trying to find the right language. From a softer to a more punitive approach. And we recommend, of course, the softer approach be taken first over the punitive. And we would like further instruction from council on what we should instruct council staff to study further. Either one of them, two of them, three of them. Yeah, we're essentially asking for further direction from council.
Okay. And there's a second.
I second the motion.
Second.
Committee member Bain,
Aye.
Cabrera,
Aye.
Christie,
Aye.
Detmer,
Aye.
Lau,
Aye.
and Tainter.
Aye.
Right.
Okay, motion carried. Karen, when would you be presenting that to council? Is that like a once a year thing, or how does this happen?
Well, it'd be at a meeting, and I have something from OSEC to bring, and I was told that January was full and I had to do February. So I
Okay.
believe they have 2 meetings in February, so
Okay.
probably a February meeting.
Karen.
Does it appear on the agenda then?
Sure,
Or
yeah.
is it-
Yeah.
Okay.
Excuse me, Karen, can you advise us when that
Yeah.
might be presented to council so we can at least watch?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, great. I hope we're done.
We'll find out, or you will find out.
Well, you get channel 27.
That's true. That's true. I could.
And or
Wow.
YouTube
Or
afterward.
YouTube.
Yeah,
Or
YouTube. Yeah,
We
it's
will
live
call
on
you-
YouTube too.
we will call you for special testimony, expert witness.
Oh, great. Okay.
Okay, shall we move on to the next item then, item B, which was the committee work plan suggestions to council?
And
Matt.
Matt, I think we'd want to see that.
Yeah,
You have the other attachment, the work plan ideas.
Oh, yeah, my bad. Here we go.
we're almost out of time tonight, aren't we?
There you go.
I thought this was gonna be I thought this was gonna be a short one.
Okay, so this was the list of just ideas that came out from our meeting last month. And the idea of this is that the reason of sending this is that, as far as we know, there were only 2 items on our work plan. One was parking, which we have just taken a major step forward on. Maybe we are finished with it. I don't know. Probably not. But the other one was one-way streets, Mendocino and Solano, or Karen can fill us in on that later. And that would be the next project that we actually go and work on, is the one-way streets issue. So since there was nothing else the council had come to us with, and since a lot of our projects that were ongoing were just cut off and stopped, I believe that was in November, we wanted to go back to council, or my thought was to go back to council with some suggestions from the committee on things that we thought were important to work on for Brisbane. It's not meant to be an all-inclusive list. It's not meant to be the only list. And it's certainly at council's decision as to what we do or do not work on. But the idea was to send them suggestions so that they knew we were thinking about what might be best for Brisbane, not just sitting here waiting to be inspired or asked to do things, but that we were also thinking in Brisbane's best interests. So With that, I guess I just put it out with discussion. I know we're not sure we want to send this at all or not. So Linda?
I just think that maybe what we should do is change the header to suggested complete street safety committee draft work plan.
Oh, okay.
Then it's not a demand, it's a suggestion. And perhaps
Right.
adding the other two items, the one-way streets and was it parking? As number 1 and number 2, and parking will be eliminated quickly, which is good. The one-way streets should probably be on here because it's their idea for us to do that.
Okay.
Does
All
that
right.
make sense?
I think that's good. I think we should maybe put a parentheses or a sub-note with those that they are underway, that those two projects are in process or underway or being worked
Okay.
on, or so that they know it's just not sitting out there, not done.
Right, and not included in our work plan for 2022.
Right.
Would it be appropriate to also include like an update on the Bayshore San Bruno intersection mast, an update on what the next steps are for that, if there are any?
I think that's been shut down.
You're
was under
talking
the
the
impression-
traffic light. You're talking the intersection,
Right, just the intersection, because that,
not the bike lane.
right.
Yeah, I mean, we've done our work as a committee, but every now and then staff has an update for us. I mean, which Justin was regularly providing for us.
I think
So is there any
updates
more,
are
is
not
there any more
some,
work that needs to be done regarding that intersection, basically, from the committee's standpoint? Like a reevaluation, because wasn't the right-hand turn only thing like supposed to be under reevaluated after X amount of months, or and if we're going to install recommend installing a traffic light there or not?
Well, you did recommend installing a traffic
We
light.
recommended a traffic light.
Yes.
Yeah, but council did not go with
Council
that recommendation.
did not do it. Right.
So just a big mast for now.
Correct.
Yeah, that could one day be a home for a traffic light.
Hopefully. It was my opinion, or my understanding rather, that a lot of the work items that we had on our list have been closed, and I thought that was one of them.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think
So-
it doesn't change till more funding becomes available, such as Baylands can pay for a traffic light, or traffic levels change because of Baylands development, so forth.
So I guess
I'm sorry.
it's mainly driven because of funds. I mean,
I think so.
unless
Well,
there's more accidents, or do we know, or can the Brisbane police share with us if there's a lot of infraction and people are not respecting, not turning, not making U-turns, or not making a left?
Yes, Karen.
Not respecting the signage, I guess you're saying, and James
Yeah.
sounded like Justin was giving you guys regular updates, but he's not around. So are you
Yeah. looking
for without digging in, Karen, are you looking for updates every 3 to 6 months on that? I don't know if the money was the only decision. I remember when we had the past council liaisons, we had council members Davis and Conway. Actually, we got their feedback, and then when we brought it to the full council, that was when, I don't know if you guys watched that meeting, and it's been a couple of years now, but we're recommending a number of things. We were recommending only allowing the no left turns during commute hours. And Councilmember Davis said, well, let's not let's just not let anyone make left turns, and then we don't have to go to the expense of a traffic signal. Let's just do that.
Okay.
And everyone said, yeah, great, let's do that. So I
Okay,
think they thought that was a solution, and I guess unless, right, people are disobeying the signs, or there continue to be, pretty serious accidents, we have improved that intersection. So I think we'd be looking for something, significant to change, to need to reopen that item.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those stay tuned. Right now, the amount of traffic is an outlier because of the pandemic, but once thing goes back to normal, let's see what happens. If all the stuff that was done is working or not.
How much do you, Christian, you're right there in your work, do you see infractions? Do you see police writing tickets, maneuvers?
Well, what I do see is a lot of people speeding, so that hasn't stopped. But I have not seen, people making illegal turns or not obeying to those signs so far. So that's a good thing.
good.
Karen, excuse me, going back to how often to be updated, may I suggest that whenever there's a change or information on any of our work plan ideas or past work plan ideas that have been completed, that you inform us?
Well, I'm gonna have to ask police staff to let me know about at intersections. So some of the other ones, sure, I'm working on or directly in touch with, but I'm gonna have to check in with them. So I can send out a general, if you get anything significant, be sure to let me know. But I can still try to check in a few times a year also.
Okay, I mean, just as things progress, if there's a change that we wouldn't be aware of normally, if you could just bring us up to date.
Yeah, and if there's an
Great.
accident, I would hear about it. You guys also might hear about it in the community just quickly. So,
Mhm.
okay.
Thanks.
Any other thoughts or discussions? James, you had some thoughts earlier on about whether to do this or not?
No, I was just discussing the principle of the discussion. I didn't have any
Okay.
specific points.
Okay,
Alex Bain has his hand up.
Alex?
Do I have my hand up? Sorry.
Oh, was that an accident?
No, I didn't mean to. I'm sorry.
I didn't see that. So, well, do you have anything
I'm
to
sorry.
add to it, Alex?
No, I think this is a good summary, and I think it looks good in its current form.
I think my
Alex-
cursor was over your box. I apologize.
No worries.
Alex Lau?
No, my question was just, if there was on that intersection, if more work needed to be done, and if it did, we could add it to this list regarding the intersection at Bayshore and San Bruno.
Okay. Christian?
No, I think that's short and sweet goals that you have there.
All right. Well, with the two changes that Linda had made in terms of adding as number 1 and 2, the parking project and the one-way streets, could I have a motion then to send this on to council, and the change from draft to suggested 2022 work plan ideas? Could I have a
I'll make
motion?
a motion that we submit it with those changes.
Okay.
Second.
Is there second? Karen, can we do a roll call?
Yes, we can. Committee member Bain,
Aye.
Cabrera,
Aye.
Christie,
Abstain.
Detmer,
Aye.
Lau,
Aye.
and Tainter.
Aye. The motion carries. Okay.
Right.
So Karen, when does this get presented to? Would it be at the same time that you're doing the parking then? Would you put? I mean, getting on council is like trying to get a COVID test.
I think, this might be
man.
easier. We put last year's work plan on the agenda and it was a consent calendar item, so that's easier. But I don't know, I'm gonna have to check whether, the city manager works with the mayor on the agenda, so whether they would, or the clerk would recommend it as a consent calendar item or a discussion item, and that may have an effect. But
Okay.
I would hope it happened in February, we're trying to do OSEC in early February also. So it may or may
Okay.
not be the same as the parking one,
Okay,
but I can
Okay.
let you know.
you'll let us know, right? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Staff updates?
I just have a couple. One is, I had to look at minute preparation and correcting minutes because when we talked about one-way streets, I incorrectly said Mendocino and I meant to say Mariposa and Monterey streets. So I need to state that for the record so it gets into this month's minutes.
I was wondering about that. Yeah,
They're not next to each other, are they?
no.
All the M's, I don't know, I was under pressure or something and I thought of the wrong street name. So Monterey and Mariposa were the ones that are under consideration. I did hear back from South San Francisco staff about the bike lane improvements that we asked for at the 101 flyover exit. And I believe there are some different staff over there in their public works department than who were around when we originally put in the bike lane and when the committee recommended putting in the white delineators. So I had told you last month that they said, we have a sign shop, we'll make the signs if you can do the pavement markings. And then their sign shop said, well, that bikes yield to cars is not a standard MUTCD sign. Normally it's cars yield to bikes. And so I've emailed him a few times saying, I would like to explain our whole process because it really isn't safe in this case. And we're trying to delineate who should have priority. And I'd love to talk you through our process because what I feel like is that they're going through the same process on their end. And we've just been emailing back and forth. So it was middle of December when I got that back and I offered to talk and I asked for an update today and offered to talk again and did not yet get an update. So I think they're kind of scratching their heads on the same thing that we talked about for a period of time. And hopefully they come to a similar conclusion, but I'm going to continue to ask them about that because I expected you guys to want to have an update. So that's not happening as quickly as I had hoped it would based on the first conversation.
Okay, thank you.
And on the bus shelter at 140 Valley, because the bid, our procurement policy tells us that we should get multiple bids for something at the cost of, these are like $12,000, $13,000. We have one bid. We got a verbal quote from a second contractor and we're waiting for that to be a written quote. And I think they were having some challenges with what was spec'd and whether that could be produced. There are different colors and finishes for the frame and for the glass and for the roof, styles of roof. So that was all being ironed out over the holidays. So I haven't sent it to you because I'm not sure that the one that it was Justin was kind of went towards one particular one.
Okay.
Whether that one's even can be produced. And I'm still waiting for that second quote. So that's kind of in a little bit of holiday limbo too. But we did get a bench put out there. So it looks
Okay.
like a little improved stop now.
Yeah,
And we've ordered, to my knowledge, we've ordered the small bench for the one in town that's at San Bruno Mendocino, isn't it? That's
yeah,
Mendocino Street was.
great.
And the last thing is that we had a little, not a snafu, but a confusion about shuttle passes. So then I just figured it'd be a good time to update you guys is that commute.org residents get shuttle passes for the year, residents that use the shuttle to get to BART or Caltrain or wherever they're going. And the staff that mails those out to everybody had a miscommunication with commute.org and heard that they weren't printing them this year. So they still have shuttle passes. And what they said is they're being sent during COVID, they're being softer about making people show their pass and enforcing that. They're not doing it all the time, and they really just want to encourage people to use the shuttles. So it's kind of not exactly a policy, but more of a practice of transit is like, if you want to get on the shuttle and you don't have a pass, you can do that a couple, 2-3 times. But if you're going to be a regular user, they want you to get a pass. So
They should advertise that.
You know,
They should
we did put it in social media. There's a little bit of a blip about, you know, passes are being mailed out, but you can give it a try.
Okay.
Can you come to City Hall and apply for a pass or do it online?
I'm not sure about that because it's our finance staff that mails them out to people. I believe they come into the counter. We're trying to make everything doable online, but that's a good question. I could maybe look into that.
Can you bring a dog on the shuttle?
I don't know the answer to that either. Is it a service animal? Maybe.
It not officially, but you know.
Dog's got to have one of the cards. Dog's got to
you-
prove that it lives in Brisbane.
It needs its own pass.
Get her own shuttle
Boy,
pass.
Yeah, it works
Can
at
you-
Amazon.
Can you bring the dog on BART or Caltrain?
I don't
Probably-
know.
A
Probably the same
service dog.
Yes.
Yeah.
thing.
A
Yeah.
service dog, I think, can go anywhere, but you know, I'm just thinking it might be kind of fun to start using the shuttle. And if I don't take my dog with me, she just falls apart. So just curious.
Well, you should get out there at the stop and ask the driver. Maybe the drivers enforce that, you know.
Yeah, I need to see where the shuttle stops are up off close to Tulare. I think I know where they are and what the times are that they come by, and just check it out. It would be fun.
Yeah,
So that's all I've got on updates.
okay.
Thank you, Karen.
Any
I guess
committee-
there's one more is
Yes.
we made a conditional offer to an assistant engineer. So
Great.
new staff in maybe a month.
I hope that works out. Yeah.
Karen, do you know when the interviews are going to be for additional committee members?
I had understood they scheduled them for either, you know, they moved the January meeting. Because of the holidays, so. Let's see. We haven't staff meeting in a while, but here we go. Let's see. Maybe it was the first meeting in February. I thought it was February. Now it's the gist I got from Ingrid's email that Patrick was on was that maybe they didn't get a full slate of applicants and they may extend the process. So I would find that out later this week. And
That happens every year. It always gets a second call, it seems, for numerous committees.
Mhm.
you know, if it's a tough
Yeah.
time of year, right?
Yeah.
Maybe this should be changed to a different part of the year. And there's not.
February, yeah. So they had kind of set possibly February 3rd, their first meeting in February to do interviews.
Okay.
But I don't know if that's confirmed or, you know,
Actually, my term is up. I have to reapply.
Me too.
well, if
And
you
we're
are
a good
planning,
company.
if you're
You better
planning
get
to
your
reapply,
application in.
right, that might be why they're thinking that they don't have enough applicants if you guys haven't turned them in.
I
You gotta
have.
send that in.
I
Okay.
turned mine in.
They may not be certain.
Let's get on it.
Alex, let's go.
Okay, I have till the 14th. I'll-
And as for,
Karen,
huh?
I just have a curiosity, I guess. So the city ended up purchasing the B of A property. Do you know what they're going to do with it?
I don't know any more than what the staff report said, which I didn't read. Do you? I think what I remember hearing, if I was at the council meeting, was that it seemed like an impactful property that the city didn't want to, or the council didn't want to leave to chance, so that was the thought in buying it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Did anyone read the staff report and have any more information?
I read exactly what you read, but I can't remember where.
Or maybe that's what was discussed at the
Might have been in
council?
the Star or something.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I heard
Who owns
exactly.
it? Does B of A own that property, or the owners of that mall own that
No, I
property,
think it
or is
was B of A. I think it was B of A.
Yeah,
I don't know a lot. As for the members that are not continuing their terms, I guess,
Members.
Before we say that, are there any committee member matters to discuss?
oh yeah, I'm sorry, that's probably where that belongs, being discussed. Isn't it?
Sure, I can mention that I will not be renewing my term for the Complete Street Safety Committee, and that my current term does expire at the end of this month. So I have enjoyed my time on this committee, and I've enjoyed getting to know and work with everyone on this committee. So thank you for that, and I wish you all the best, and I look forward to seeing the impact the committee has in the coming years.
Oh, Alex,
Alex,
I miss you.
we will miss you.
Yeah.
Can we
really
call you to
is.
do a computer wizardry?
Do you want a parking permit?
You're at the top of the list.
Alex, you were really key, and
Yes.
definitely in helping us present that data. So
Absolutely.
thank you for everything you've done on the committee and for serving as vice chair.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Yes,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Alex. Not just the parking, but what you did for the shuttle buses, the data
Mhm.
analysis there was really terrific. We
It
really
was very
appreciate it.
impressive, very.
Oh
Yes,
yeah, I remember
yes.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you, guys,
I think-
appreciate that.
I
Brisbane
hope
is,
if we get a new committee member there is at least half as well versed and
yes,
making us look good as you did.
yes.
Thank
And
you.
there's always next year.
Same.
Who knows?
Yeah, I'm not leaving this town or anything, so if my situation changes, perhaps I'll apply again in the future.
Right.
I hope so.
Thank you. We
you.
appreciate you.
Thank you for serving with us. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, so the city clerk had said that term officially ends on January 31st. So that's the date that is your resignation date, I understand.
Yeah,
So
cons-
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
I was going to say, considering that it isn't clear how long it'll take someone else to potentially get hired. I mean, I'm happy to potentially help out with interviews maybe like next month, but I can't go for much longer than that. So depending if it's going to get extended, I think it makes more sense for me just to resign at the end of the month. Just keep it simple.
Thank you.
And James, I guess,
And James as well.
Yeah.
We appreciate what you've done for the committee as well. Two
Very
big
much
projects.
so.
Yeah,
Your leadership
Thank
has
you.
been exemplary.
yes.
Thank you. That means a lot. Thank you.
you would like your term to end on the 31st, or you're going to, are you, I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot. Ingrid wrote an email and the
I
city
mean, if
clerk.
it officially ends on the 31st, I mean, I want to honor that.
So if it ends on the 31st for both of you and we have more work to do, will we have a quorum before we get new?
Yeah, what happens
The
to the
quorum
quorum?
changes when there's less. It'll just be 4. So you would only need, I think, 2 or 3 for a quorum.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
that makes sense. Thank you. I just forgot that. Okay, well, this is sad.
Yes,
I've really enjoyed working with all of you and you two especially. And now that you're leaving, it's like the family. It's become like a family, and I've really enjoyed it. So thank you again.
No, good memories.
yes.
Absolutely. Radar guns.
Yes, that's the first thing I thought of when I thought of good memories.
And I
Okay.
mentioned to James that we remember gave the blessing to
Oh
Justin.
yeah, when Justin wanted me to bless him for Ash Wednesday. Yeah, I
Oh.
remember that. Yeah.
That's a unique memory, I'm sure.
Oh,
Well, not every committee has a clergy person on it, so
That's right.
yeah.
No. The ones that meet on Wednesdays
There you go.
or Sundays.
Okay. Any other matters to discuss? All right, our next
Been a good
meeting is,
meeting.
yes, our next meeting is February 7th. Could I have a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, everyone. Happy New Year. Have a good January.
Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Happy New
Alex.
Year.
Bye,
Thank you.
Bob.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Happy New
Take
Year.
care.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.